Good evening, good afternoon, or good morning, depending upon the time at which you are watching this video. This is Cambone0803, and I wish to address the topic of Destiny, its lack of, or plentiful amount of content, and my personal thoughts that there is a divide between the community that must be addressed. Now, there's, especially for the past few seasons, Shadowkeep, at least in my opinion, had a very disappointing delivery. So, I didn't know what to expect with Beyond Light. I was hesitant whether or not I was going to buy it, but in the end, I did, and I'm honestly quite enjoying myself with the content I have. Now, I don't play as often as I should or used to, but I am honestly happy playing how I am playing right now. And you know, I can say I'm enjoying myself fairly well with the game. A lot of the content I have fun doing. A lot of additions to the game, such as these Legend and Master Lost Sectors, are a lot of fun to do, and they're very rewarding. Deepstone Crypt was a very good raid. Kind of easy, and the AI was a little brain dead, let's be honest. But I'd say Deepstone Crypt was a pretty good raid, you know? I liked it. I like the ability to farm the raid. But that brings up an issue. I like the idea of farming the raids, but I think it didn't have to be done. Now, to explain what I'm saying, back in Destiny 1, a lot of raid weapons had fixed roles, other than, I think, a few in Taken King, because that was where no, I don't think that was where random roles were introduced. I only joined during Taken King. But otherwise, the weapons that were rewarded from raids were fairly powerful, and the raids felt rewarding. But now, I'd say that raids don't really feel as rewarding anymore. And that's more likely because we stomped on raids during the days of, well, with auto-reloading and crazy builds that allowed us to one-phase bosses. One-phasing bosses was something that I used to defend, but now I see two sides to it. I do not like the ability to one-phase a boss. But when it comes to the raids in Destiny 2, the loot feels often so underwhelming that I'd rather not have my ability to one-phase a boss be taken away. Because it's just an annoyance to get something that I don't really care about because it's a pretty terrible weapon. A lot of the weapons from Last Wish are not very great. For example, the Scout Rifle is pretty notorious, at least when it came out, for being, quite frankly, shit. Now, Scout Rifles in general have been shit for a while. I surmise that it's due to the fact that they try to give bows a fighting chance in the meta. But ever since, they haven't really been back to where they used to. I mean, they weren't ever really back to where they used to back in Destiny, from Destiny 1 standpoint. But I don't think that's where they should be. It's a separate topic altogether. There's also something I've been noticing as I watch several content creators, I watch a couple Destiny streams here and there. There seems to be a large divide between the community. And it is that of usually streamers. I don't want to say that it's entirely streamers and content creators because I feel like that's putting a label that I don't want to put on these people. I mean, I don't blame them for doing what they do. Destiny can and probably is the way they make their living. And they really want to be able to have a sustainable content creation ability, a stream of content from their games. And so I don't really blame them for being a bit malcontented with the lack of content right now. But there's also a portion of the community, which I can consider myself a part of, who don't get to play as much as these people do. And it's often a toss between seasons of which part of the community will be favored. Beyond Light seems to be favored in the direction of people like me who don't have as much time, so there's more of an ability to grind to get to where we want to be. Namely, doing raids. But people who create content often will participate in the raid race, get really high power levels, and just overall be very far ahead of other people. And they find no challenge in the game that they play, and they find, no real reason to play Destiny 2 because they've done everything already. But the issue I see is what a lot of streamers want, and I don't like categorizing them to that, so what should I call them? People who get to play more. People like streamers. It's namely streamers that have the ability to grind as much as they do. They don't find the game to be very enjoyable because they've already done everything already. I think that's a completely justifiable complaint because they're making their lives off of this game, so they don't really have much of a choice other than to get to that max power level as fast as they do. But I also don't like the community that doesn't have the type of time that they do to be abandoned, so that, especially with how much time-gated content there is in Destiny, that they miss out because they can't get as far as streamers did to experience the content that they wanted to experience. For example, if a dungeon disappears, or if a raid disappears, or if any activity in general disappears that someone had wanted to do, but they were not able to get their power level high enough because they didn't have as much time to play, well then they're kind of screwed. They didn't get to experience what they wanted to, but the streamers who had plenty of time to experience the game as quickly as possible, they got the ability to do that content early and whenever they wanted. They had the ability to grind an insane amount, and I just don't think that's fair. But I also don't think it's fair to content creators who have to build their lives off of this game and who get their money from creating content for this game. It's just not fair to them to not have content to create because they've already grinded through everything. So I see that as a large problem in the community because it always teeters one way or another. Another divide within the community is PvE and PvP. I also generally have the same standpoint between PvE and PvP, that neither should be neglected while the other one thrives. I personally don't enjoy PvP, and it's not because of the reasons that of balance. It's because I'm not someone who really enjoys PvP in general. But I don't really enjoy PvP that much. And so, I don't think it's very fair to... So, I think both aspects of the game should be focused on. One should not be neglected while the other thrives. I am a PvE player. I've never really enjoyed PvP due to just I'm not a very good player. I don't really enjoy playing PvP, not necessarily because of the balancing issues, but because it's just not something I enjoy doing. But I very much enjoy PvE in Destiny 2. But oftentimes, one will get looked over while the other one is tweaked and balanced. I don't think that's fair either. There are people who genuinely enjoy the PvP in this game, and I can see why. It's a very enjoyable experience. There are people who enjoy PvE in this game. I also think it's a very enjoyable experience. But I don't think it's fair for either to have their favorite game mode neglected and to be basically forced to play the other if they want to enjoy the game, which they wouldn't be enjoying the game anyhow. So, what's the solution then? What are we to do in order to try and join the community back together so that everyone can be enjoying this game? Well, I think a good idea would be an introduction, or rather reintroduction, of prestigious content. It's prestigious content that people can do. It's something that already exists in the game. For example, a strike that someone may have wanted to do, or a raid that someone may have wanted to do. But it's a higher difficulty and much more challenging, so that there's different loot and different things to grind for, so that there is more content to enjoy out of the game for the players who get more time to play the game. And for players who don't get as much time, they don't have to feel the need to play this prestigious content, they just need to play the normal modes of the content, so that they're able to enjoy the game at their own pace. So, for example, a prestige raid, or a hard mode raid, like there were in Destiny 1, no one had to do a hard mode raid. You could experience the raid just fine, and maybe an easier experience to do it in normal mode. And you wouldn't have to worry about being time-gated out of the raid, because you were able to get and experience it at a relatively lower power level. And you could still get the loot out of the raid. But for more prestigious players who have more time to play, then maybe they'll want more things to hunt for, or more challenging activities. I thought personally that the different difficulties of Nightfalls and these Legend and Master Lost Sectors were a very good addition to the game. They provided a good amount of challenge for people who wished to grind for them, but people who didn't have to. And they could still enjoy the various other aspects of the game, and they wouldn't have to miss out on the Lost Sectors, because these Lost Sectors, you don't have to do them. Now, you could argue that you don't have to do raids either, but raids are one of the best experiences in Destiny, because they are one of the most well-worked-on parts of the game. They are very enjoyable experiences, most of the time, but I think that everyone should be able to experience them without having to worry about having to grind for so long, especially if they move into a next season in which the power level requirement is much higher, and so now they have to grind even more and take more time from their schedule, which is more than likely already tight, to grind the game more to be able to experience the content that they wanted to experience. So, the addition of these more prestigious activities would help more prestigious players have something to do while other more casual players, I suppose you could say. I don't like using the word casual, but that's mostly because it has been given a definition that is generally negative. I don't think being a casual player is a bad thing at all, because some people don't get the ability to play as much as non-casual players do. I think it's perfectly fine for a casual player to be able to play the game. There are a lot of people I hear who tell me that if you don't want to grind in Destiny, then you shouldn't play Destiny at all. I think that's a completely ridiculous statement. They are essentially saying that anyone who does not have the time to grind in Destiny, a game that they could quite possibly very much enjoy, they should be locked out of it because of something they can't control. If you have a 9-to-5 job and cannot play Destiny as often as other people, it's kind of unfair to have someone say, you do not deserve to play the game because you cannot make the time investment. It's a completely ridiculous statement. I don't hear many people saying that, but I hear people saying that, and it's just, quite frankly, a stupid thing to say. Now, while I do agree that especially more prestigious content should be saved for people who have that sort of investment, I wouldn't categorize raids under them. Because raids, again, like I had said before, are some of the best experiences you can get out of Destiny. So no player should be locked off from the raid, the ability to play a raid, because they weren't able to grind. Now, maybe my opinion on that will change if I feel that the loot was to the point where it felt like I was doing something prestigious. It felt like it was something worth doing. But right now, weapons from the raids don't feel that powerful. They don't feel I don't feel the need to grind them. Because they don't feel fun, they don't feel powerful, they feel kind of generic. The uniqueness of raid weapons was something that charmed me in Destiny 1, and I loved it. And their raid quests from different Destiny 1 raids, such as the Touch of Malice and the Outbreak Prime, were fantastic experiences that could continue your fun with the raid for a long time. And the secrets that you could find in the raids were fantastic. Maybe we could add more of those in order to engage the players who have more time to play the game, but not make it necessary so that more casual players can enjoy the game at their own pace and be able to enjoy content without worrying about never being able to experience it due to a time gate. I think the worst example of time gating in this game is the Felwinter's Lie. The worst example of time gating anything in this game that I have ever seen was the Felwinter's Lie shotgun. I'm aware it's coming back in the Exotic Kiosk, I believe in the next 2 seasons. But not only is it going to be sunset, for the time it was out and you were unable to obtain it, it was a ridiculously powerful weapon that destroyed the meta. Now, I understand that Season of the Worthy was a fairly terrible season, and the player base was lost a significant amount. But to time gate a weapon that was that ridiculously overpowered that still destroys the PvP meta today, it feels unfair, especially to players who didn't get it. I didn't get it myself, but I don't play PvP, so I haven't noticed anything. But I have heard many complaints about the Felwinter's Lie, how ridiculous it is in PvP, and how they couldn't get it because it was time gated. Now, I'm glad the Exotic Kiosk is a thing, because you can buy things from seasons that you didn't participate in, or didn't have time to play. It's a great addition, but time gating is never a good thing, especially with content that people may want to do, because again, people don't have much time to play this game sometimes, especially people with 9-to-5 jobs, maybe some kids. I can't speak from personal experience. I also don't want to go too far behind in Destiny because I genuinely enjoy the game, and it's a very good stress reliever for me. So I don't want to fall behind. Now, I have a good amount more time than other people, but generally, people who work 9-to-5s don't have that sort of privilege. And I am very happy that I have this privilege and very grateful. I just don't think it's fair to time gate things. The raids, I suppose you could justify, due to the fact that generally the raids aren't time-gated, but we did just get an entire few years worth of raids that were just sent into the Destiny content vault. Maybe they're coming back for all I know. I'm not 100% sure. But all I know is that those are gone, and anyone who didn't have the time to get to a point where they could play it, they never got to experience those raids unless it was through secondhand watching someone else do it. I don't think that's fair to them at all. Maybe it was going to be a raid that they would really enjoy, and maybe it was going to be their favorite raid ever, but they never got to experience it. Some people suggest removing the power level system. I have thought about it a good bit. I don't think it's a very good idea, but it is a good suggestion. The basic premise behind it is that we remove the power system and have something else that we will be able to lock us off from higher level content. But I don't know what. What would lock us off from the higher level content? Because light level right now is the best thing that's keeping us from just immediately going into raids. Because I do feel there is a positive sense of progression from getting higher to a higher power level and being able to finally experience the raid that you've been waiting to experience. However, the constant increase of power level every season can get frustrating for many players because it almost feels like you're being reset. Like all your work to get to the power level you did was kind of for nothing. I can understand that. I can see how such a system would be fairly frustrating. I don't like having to get to a new power every season either, but the reason I don't is due to the fact that I have to do the same things I've been doing for the last few years, just again and again. I don't like doing strikes. I'm going to be honest, I don't like doing strikes. I don't really like doing Gambit, and as stated before, I don't really like doing Crucible. I don't feel it's right to go AFK in any of those activities. Plus, it's not supported. It's not a supported action in the game. I don't support it either. The AFK forge farming, sure, it was an absolutely ridiculous way to get materials, and I used it. I didn't think it was right, though. I don't think that someone should be able to put no work in and get anything they want. But I also don't think that people should feel that they're going to be reset almost every season, and that all their progress that they made is just going to be wiped away, and now the raid that they wanted to do, they're going to have to work even harder to get to. So maybe prestigious content for more prestigious players, and less prestigious regular content for more casual players. I think that's a great idea. Let me know what you think, and that is all for today.